Greetings, Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Tom Grissinger, and we were talking beforehand, and we realized we've been friends for 20 years?
Already 20 years.
Yeah. So anyway, say hi.
Hey there.
So here we are. There's so many things to talk about.
I'm in trouble.
Okay, talk about how we met. That's an interesting story. Let's start there.
All right. Do you want to do your version?
No, I
or
want to
mine?
do your version because
Okay.
you're my guest.
All right. My version. I was single. I was on Bear 411. And
That dates us.
Yeah, I know. Is that still around?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. But you reached out and you said that you were going to travel from San Diego back up to Seattle?
No, I was in Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. But you were going to go up and down the coast and you were
Right.
going to set up a bunch of dates.
Right. To pick one of them.
Exactly. It was like a reality show. And normally I would have blown you off. I had a guy from Memphis come once and I'm going to be out there for this race and, I'd like to meet you. And I think I wrote back something like, sex workers are a lot cheaper than flying out here. But he hung in there and we met and thank you for playing. Next. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I said, sure. And you and I talked for a couple months?
Right.
Back and forth. You're a nice guy. And then one day you threw a wrench in it.
I did?
Yeah. Suddenly you talked about one of the guys you were going to see that you hadn't seen in years that you thought was straight when you were straight. And of course it was like a match.
Just to fill in a little gap here, that was my youngest son's youth pastor at the church when I was involved in the church. Jeff was his youth pastor, and he moved to Southern California to work at an ex-gay ministry and stopped talking to me when I came out. So that was the last I heard. And then, actually one day I broke up with my short-term second partner, and I was mad at all men. And I said, the perfect guy for me would be Jeff, but he's not gay. And then a month later, he gets a hold of me, and that's where you come in. And it's like, wow. So it's almost like reuniting with your high school sweetheart or something, because I had a crush on him. We were really good friends before he stopped talking to me. So anyway, I tell you this, and then what happened?
Well, of course, at that point, the competition's over. I can't compete with that. Geez. And
You said it was in the stars, or what'd you say? Something like that.
I don't know. It was destiny. I don't know. Probably something corny like that. But
And I still hate you for saying that because it didn't work out after 6 years. But Jeff is a good guy, and we're friends today, but it just didn't work out.
yeah, I don't think I'll be opening a psychic shop anyway at any point.
Don't quit your
Jeez.
day job.
But you did still say, hey, let's meet anyways, like in a friend kind of way.
Right.
And so as you're moving this guy up from San Diego,
Which was like 6 months later.
yeah, you stopped and you stayed overnight in our house in San Jose.
Right.
And got to know you guys. And that was cool.
That was an interesting trip.
Yeah. It was a giant moving van out in front of the house for a couple. I think it was just one night. And you
Right.
did some photography.
Oh, you took us and showed us around San Francisco. That was fun.
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
we
That was a
did.
long time ago.
It
Jeez.
was. Almost 20 years ago. Let's see. We could go two ways. I could say, I want to hear more of your dating stories, or we could go to, I found a sheet over your wall, hanging over your wall. And let's go that way. So in your den, there was a sheet hanging over the wall. And so me being Wilkinson, I said, Tom, what's behind the sheet? And you sheepishly removed the sheet to reveal what?
Sheepishly revealed. Wow.
Yeah. What was on that wall?
Well,
Because it was quite. poignant.
most people when you deal with something you're upset about, you write it down in a journal.
Right.
But I was going to remodel the house and decided it would be a good idea to do with a black magic marker, write down everything around the loss of my husband, Kelly Turner, who lived in Palm Springs. So maybe some of your listeners might actually remember him. Yeah. And so, it was songs, lyrics, it was sayings, it was embarrassing. Is what
You put your grief on the wall. It's what you did.
I did.
And what I recall is you would respond to that later on. I don't know what the time frame was, but I remember you wrote things and then you wrote a positive note under it. Some of them had that. I remember that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the lyrics. Like one of them, I think was Melissa. I'm all right. It only hurts when I breathe. I mean, yeah, I was hurting. That was Mr. 13 months together, and as I healed, I started writing in green instead of the black magic marker in kind of rebuttals back, and that was the goal. Was when the remodel happens, I would take a sledgehammer to the wall and destroy it.
Right,
and that would be the end of my grief. And it didn't work out. It was a really cheaply added room in the middle of a room, and it was made out of plywood.
and this craftsman, really cool house.
Oh yeah,
but a bad room. Okay,
I loved that place. And ended up when I took the sledgehammer to it, plywood doesn't really break apart like maybe sheetrock, and so the actual sledgehammer came back and hit me. And of course, then I added on "Love Hurts" on the wall. So it was just, it did come down though. Eventually, it got painted over.
Okay, that brings up dating. Do you have any dating stories?
Oh God,
I know you're a storyteller.
And I always want to hear the other person's version of it as well. Which one do you want to focus on?
Pick one. I'm going to leave it to you.
Oh, you want to do brain cancer guy?
Well, that sounds pleasant. Let's do that. Okay, do brain cancer guy.
All right, brain cancer guy. Okay, so it was a hookup during Craigslist. He came over. It was a casual encounter. We had fun. And at the end, I was a little bitter about dating. So I said, why don't you just tell me what's wrong with you, and I'll tell you what's wrong with me, and we'll see if it works. And he said, well, I can tell you. I'm recently separated from my wife. I'm new to this, and I have operable brain cancer. And of course, this point, I just feel awful. I mean, to have done that to this poor guy, and I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? He says, no, it's going to be fine. And he says, you know what? I'd like to take you out on a date. And I thought, okay. I back in those days that I could get sex, but I couldn't get dinner.
Right.
And so he actually picked me up.
You want the food, not the sex. Come on.
I wanted a normal evening,
Right.
I wanted more than just the sex.
Right.
And so he picks me up. It's dark, and he opens the car door for me. And I'm like, what? What is this? And I thought, okay, he's new to this. This is what he does with a woman. I'm not real thrilled about that, but I can go with it. Get in the car, and I'm looking at it. I'm going, well, the nice car. What is it? And he says a Ferrari. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then he goes on, and I know nothing about cars. And says he has an Austin Healey, and he starts talking about his life. He's got a pomegranate farm, and he flies a plane down there, and all this elaborate story. And we get to the restaurant. He sits on the same side of the booth as me. Now, okay, if you're recently out, I don't think you would do that. I wouldn't even do that back in those days. Anyways, he kisses me in the middle of this shopping center, and I'm like, wow, this guy is so romantic. Again, opens my car door.
Wait a minute, stop. So you went to a shopping center for dinner?
Well, it was Santana Row. It's a beautiful shops on the downstairs with some nice restaurants. If you've ever been there, it was a nice place. No,
okay, because that doesn't sound, a shopping center doesn't sound Ferrari-ish to me.
No.
Okay, so it was a nice one.
It was. I'll tell you the story someday where I was taken to a grocery outlet store for a date. That was an experience. Like I said, got a million stories. And we go back to my place. He walks me to the door, kisses me goodnight, and that's it. I mean, we didn't have sex. It was a real date. Not bad. And so I return, take him out on a date. I think I picked him up in my, some economy car, not quite what he was used to.
Right.
Had a nice evening, and again, no sex. And he tells me he's going to have the surgery. And I'm like, oh my God, well, how do I stay in touch with you? Are you going to be okay? No worries. Email me and my mom will respond. So I do. And so how'd it go? And I get this email back from, I'll call him John because I don't want to get him in trouble.
Right.
And I said, John, dear John's mother. And I wrote this nice note. And she wrote back, dear Tom, and John signed it John's mother. And then nothing. I call him every day, leave a nice message. You don't need to call me back because I'm really concerned, but that's okay. You take care of yourself. And then as time passes, I spread out the dates. I don't call every day. I call every other day, maybe once a week. And I'm finally figuring I killed this guy. It's I killed another one. I've been a widow twice. That's such an ugly word. And I thought, great, I killed another.
I think you're a widower.
Widower. There we go.
You're male.
I do get looks like 2. That's like a black widow. So maybe that's why I'm thinking widow. But
okay.
Anyways, time passes. I meet my husband, Andy, and we're together at a drinking thing, like down in San Jose. And there he is. And I was with my friend who looks at me and goes, your face just went white. What's wrong? And I said, remember brain cancer guy? I said, yeah. See over there? That's him. And he says, John? I said, yeah. See the guy next to him? Yeah. That's his husband of 8 years.
Oops.
Oh.
And so you had been with him going back how far?
Oh,
Just
only
for
like
clarity.
a year and a half before.
So a year and a half. So he was stepping out on this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And what was bad is I was really concerned. So I had actually...
Were you worried all that time?
Oh, yeah. I researched his phone number and talked to his ex-wife. I mean, I wanted to know what happened to him.
You're a stalker.
I was. I admit it. And she's like, oh, that little thing on his forehead? That was brain cancer? And she said, you want his home phone number? And I said, sure. And I had called and I thought it was him. And
No, wait a minute. Stop.
Yeah.
So you're at this event that you saw him.
Yeah.
You called her after the event.
No,
right?
before,
You
because I
did?
was concerned.
Oh, so that you knew that it wasn't.
Well, I wasn't sure. The guy who I talked to, again, it was research, so I wasn't 100%. I
Right.
didn't know the guy's last name.
Right.
We never seem to get that.
But the wife, if the ex-wife said that, then it gave you a clue that he wasn't being honest with you, right?
Well, maybe he has a bad relationship with her and
Right,
doesn't
she could
talk,
be lying, right.
So, and I get, he gets on the phone with me and I thought it was him and he said, no, and I said, Pomegranate Farm, you collect cars. I don't know who this is. I'm sorry. So when I see him and I learned that he's with another guy of 8 years, I don't want to mess with his relationship. So when he walked by himself, okay, I just said to him, nice to see you're not dead. And he just shook. And I mean, that's the part where, like in Dynasty, where you take your drink and you throw the cocktail in the face and storm out. But that's not me.
Right.
And the next day I sent him a long email and, I said, I don't know what you got out of that. You're kind of, you played the widow very well. I was having feelings for you and you disappeared. And he wrote back, sorry, didn't think I would fall in love. Hope you understand.
So he had feelings too.
Apparently, and he has a weird way of showing them.
So do you think was the Ferrari his, and did he have a pomegranate farm or not? Well, I mean, what's
Don't
true?
know,
What
don't
is
care.
true here and what isn't? You don't know.
No, it was an elaborate story. So I think it was legit. And I've seen him many times since, and he always leaves the party whenever he sees me. So I feel bad that I make him uncomfortable to this day.
Well, that's a good point, probably.
Yeah. But no, I always have these off dates. I mean, it was just one bad date after another.
Okay, at least one more. What is it? Pick one.
Oh, God.
Talk about Yurt Guy. I know there's a Yurt
Yurt
Guy.
Guy. Yeah, these are all people that are true stories guys. And yeah, these are in my play. Yurt Guy. So it was a casual encounter. No wonder why I can't get dinner. And he came over. We had a great time. And one of the things about him is he said, by the way, I see dead people. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. There's a good quality. And he says, but he would research it by putting ads on Craigslist saying he would do it for free to see if he was good at it. And at the end of having spent the night, he ended up looking at me and saying, who's David? And I went, what? David. He's this young guy, good sense of humor. And there is nothing in my house about David. Nothing. He was my best friend, and he was 19 when he hung himself. And so it was just like, oh, chills up and down your spine
Right.
that he said that. And other things about this guy. So he did spend the night, and my neighbors next door were a little snooty. It's a good way of putting it. And I didn't notice his car. His car was an old beat up one that had anti-Bush slogans spray painted on it. He was from Berkeley. So that's kind of goes with being from Berkeley.
So it wasn't a Ferrari, though.
No, it wasn't a Ferrari this time. So, and he didn't have brain cancer, so that was a step
Okay.
up.
Well, neither did the other guy, apparently.
Well, he did say he had it, but it was operable. So I don't know. But so my neighbors the next morning are like leaning over the car like they're afraid to touch it. Like, I just picture them going, oh, look, Tom had another one over last night. What a slut. But yeah, he finally left. And, we didn't go together again after that. It was casual. But he lived in a yurt. And I had to look up what a yurt was. So fast forward another year. I go out on a date with a guy from Berkeley. Now, this is my first time and only time that I thought I would meet someone up there. And we have a nice dinner, nice evening. And he's talking about his roommate and showed me a plant. And I went, oh, I've got that plant in my yard. And as I walk out, I see that car with all the anti-Bush slogans on it. And I'm just like, holy crap, I'm dated his roommate. And the plant was one that I had given the guy that he had planted up in that guy's house. I mean, what are the odds? I've slept with
you
one other
gave
person.
the yurt guy a plant from your place?
Yeah,
and it went
off.
back to the house, and there it is.
And there it is growing in the yard. I'm like, I've got that one too. Yeah, that's your plant.
The exact same one.
The exact same one. So I mean, yeah. So I didn't go out with him a second time. That was just.
You didn't tell him, right? Or did you say, oops?
I did tell him the truth. I said, I went out with your roommate, I think. I know he only lives there part-time because he lived in a yurt.
Right.
And that's why I call him Yurt Guide. And I said, that just feels kind of uncomfortable. And he says, it's all right. He's cool. And he's cool. And it's like, yeah, but I never got together again with him. And so, yeah, that one just, I mean, it's like weird dating stories like that. Weird connections constantly is what I had when I was single. I don't miss being single. I feel for you if you are.
Well, thank you. Bitch. Jeez.
Oh, my God.
So moving on.
Okay.
So you've never been married to a woman.
No, never been married to a woman.
However, you have children.
Yes, I have a herd. I have
Let's
4
talk
kids.
about that. 4 kids.
Yeah. And
So you were always a slut.
No. I know. There was no sex involved for those
Okay.
kids. Well, I mean, not contact. And you know what? In dating, that was such a great screening question. And I have kids and a lot of gay men don't want that. And they would look at me like, ooh, you have kids. Is that treatable? I just knew at that point.
Is
this
it
date's
operable?
over. Yeah. Can you have that removed?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, so I got involved with a known donor program up in Oakland. We responded. So I always wanted kids. That was really important to me. I mean, I even did stamp collecting, right? Buy one for myself when I was like 8 and then buy one for my future kid and then one for an investment, which was really bad investment. They're not worth much anymore now. And in fact, when I came out to my dad, he said the best response coming out ever. He said, I kind of knew, which kind of pissed me off. It's like, great, I'm obviously gay. But he said, the only thing I'm disappointed in is you'll never know what it's like to be a father. And I remember telling him I was 23 and I said, Dad, there's other ways to have kids. That was really nice of him. It told me right there that he understood what I was experiencing.
Right.
And he was cool with it. So anyways, fast forward how it works. You go to the bank, you get screened, answer survey questions. You met with Leland, the owner of it. And about 1 out of 4 men would qualify because you have to have a high enough count that they survive the freezing process. Your deposit. I'm going to try to keep this really clean. Talk about it in terms of banking.
So he checks your deposit and see if you have enough of the bank account.
Yeah, exactly. After they defrost it and put it underneath the little slide.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, when I saw what would look like under the microscope, I felt so guilty for every time I killed those poor little guys off. I mean, it was like, whoa, look, they're alive. And so your name goes into a binder and
they probably take your photo too. Exactly. Right.
You would think that I would want a photo, but they don't.
Did not.
No, it's all questions like, what do you do for a living? What's your approach? Do your parents want to be involved? Are you a top, bottom? What's your practice in bed? Now, I still to this day don't know why that's in there.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing like having...
Now, is it a lot of gay guys donating? Is that...
It was a rainbow flag bank, basically.
Okay, so do male couples use this or just lesbians?
Well, basically the lesbians use it.
Right.
They do have occasionally straight donors as well. And so the whole concept was lesbian couples looking for gay men to play uncle. So, you think of a dad.
And you would be in their life as an uncle.
It's similar to an
Quote,
uncle
unquote.
role. Yeah, I'm not a true parent. I'm not there for every holiday. I don't have any legal rights or obligations, so I don't have to pay child support, though. It's your kid. You're going to pay, and that kind of stuff. Of course, you're going to be involved. How it works, they go through the book, the binder, and they decide which ones they're interested in. And the owner of the bank would steer you towards what you're looking for. Like if you want someone who's smart, the doctor was really popular. He'd point you to the doctor. If you want someone who's athletic, they would point to this other guy that was athletic and then they would narrow it down. Apparently I was the nice one. Wow,
You were-
not smart,
wait
not
a minute.
athletic.
You were nice.
Yes, if you want someone who's a nice person,
Wow,
go with
what an
this one.
insult.
Yeah, it's like, and I always imagine athletic deposits. And I'm just
Right.
picture these guys, lifting weights before they go in, ready for the race. But
Right.
no, so yeah, that was how he viewed me. And they would go through, and 6 months after the child is born, my identity is released. And that way, in the eyes of the law, I think it's 3 months actually, I legally abandon the child, and I have no legal rights. I can't come in and say, that's my kid. And they have no way to come back to me to get child support. Yeah, can you imagine being a lesbian couple and suddenly knock, 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 and daddy makes 3 or 4, I guess then.
Wow.
So yeah, that had to be hard on them to have someone they don't even know come into their lives.
So how many of these baster children do you have?
Oh, I have 4.
4.
And
Boys, girls, what?
3 girls, 1 boy.
And how old are they now?
Oh my God, I hate this question. Let's see if I can remember their ages.
Well, if it's going to date you, just take 10 years off. And...
Oh no, I don't mind my age. No, let's see, 21, 23, 23, and 24, which was always interesting because I tried to talk about it without revealing I was gay to some, like in a job interview once.
Right.
And the guy said to me, the 2 girls were the same age and they were like 1, and they're like, oh, you have twins. And I'm like, no. Whoa, your wife must have had them very quickly. No. Yeah. And he asked me basically something about the relationship, and I said, I'm not married. And so now he's thinking
you are a whore.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, you abandoned your kids at age 1, or worse, that I made 2 women pregnant. And that job interview ended very, very quickly.
So this is actually a job, nothing to do with adoption.
No,
You're talking
not
about the job.
adoption.
Okay, because I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just say straight up what it was?
Because I didn't want to be openly gay in the interview. I always want to be known as a good manager or director, not a good gay director.
Well, why would you have to say you're gay just because you donated?
Believe me, you start telling the story, it's like peeling an onion. They just keep going further and further. And it's like, all right, I went up and I made a deposit in Oakland. And so, yeah, it's just not a pretty story.
How are they all doing now?
They're doing great. One is becoming a doctor in a few months. Another graduated from Berkeley, and he maybe go back to law school. I mean, another one's working in LA. She manages a restaurant. And then who am I leaving out? Oh, one's still in college. So,
okay.
Yeah, the moms that they had were amazing women. They did a great job. The parts of me are definitely in there. I see, in terms of personality and things with like genetics and stuff. So they're nice kids. So apparently he was right.
Wow. Well, they sound like they're smart too.
Yeah, they must have got that from their mom.
So before we move on from this topic onto the next one, when we were talking before, did you say something about there being a problem with gay guys being donors, or what was that all about and what happened?
Oh, yeah, that was back like about 1995. Leland, the owner of the bank, had heard that they were going to ban gay men from being donors. And the reason why is they were looking at it to be just like donating blood. And he wanted to go...
Because of the HIV/AIDS thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he wanted us to go to DC and meet in front of the FDA and talk to them about it. So he asked me to be kind of the poster child for gay men that donate. And so I went there with pictures of my kids, passed them around, talked about why I wanted to do it. What I loved about it is they were a panel of scientists and doctors. And I know one was gay. I could tell, just my radar went off.
Right.
And I started...
But wait, was he cute?
He was, actually.
Okay.
But what happened was I was trying to explain to him that, you are trying to ban me based on me being part of a group, that there was the risk of HIV. And I was a safe sex instructor in those days. And I said, look, I know that if we freeze my deposits, wait 6 months, test me again, if it's HIV negative, we know that's safe. Why is it that you guys don't know this? And I said, you're letting your morals override science. What was interesting is I kind of set them up. I started saying, look, if we're going to follow that kind of thinking, then we need to ban politicians. Because all I know about politicians is what I hear in the news. I said, I started naming all these politicians that had not been monogamous with their wife, including Bill Clinton.
Right.
And I said, based on that, we really shouldn't include politicians. And, you guys, they're all part of government. So you're part of that group. So we should ban all of you from being donors. And they laughed. And I did it intentionally in a way that I could make them laugh. And then I said, why are you laughing? That's the same logic you're asking me to accept. And I just stared at him for a moment, and you could just see them going, oh. And I really went after him. I said, why are you allowing your morals to override science and facts? And the sad thing for me is nowadays that's common. We see that in politics,
right.
that they're letting the science throw it out the window versus what I believe to be true.
Right.
And
I was just thinking we could send you to DC now.
I'm happy to shame some of those people.
Okay. I don't think they have any shame, but that's another topic.
That's true. And they did at the end, they said, we're not going to ban gay donors, but they said, we're not going to recommend it either. So, it's nice to know we stopped that.
Right.
And it kind of makes you wonder how many kids have been born because of that all these years later. Yeah.
Well, great. Thanks for sharing that part. So you are a storyteller and you like to write. Let's talk a little about that.
Sure. I love telling stories. I mean, I collect them, everything from people coming out stories. Oh, I've got some really good ones there. And I'm just now in retirement getting into writing and performing. So I've got a play I wrote, a couple 10-minute plays, doing a storytelling in about a week locally here. And one of my goals is try to get on the Moth and maybe even write a book like Confessions of a Known Donor, and talk about some of the mistakes I made, with the kids and things. It'd be fun.
So that's all you're going to tell us about that?
Oh,
okay. I'm going to switch channels then. Okay. We're going to go over to the game channel.
Oh no.
Game show. What about that?
Game shows.
You have a fetish, right?
What's
That's kind
a
of
fetish?
A fetish.
Oh my God. Yes,
a game show
I love game show hosts. No, as a kid, it was something I always wanted to do. I wanted to get on game shows. And so I've been on 4 different ones. Let's see. Let's Make a Deal. The Price is Right. 25 Words or Less. And a really, really old one called Wipeout with Peter Tomarken. And it was fun. I
hate to say it.
What?
I don't know if everybody said this. They sound like gay stories, all those TV shows. The game shows.
Oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Jeez. Oh.
Dirty mind. What can I say? Anyway, we'll move on from that. So what was your favorite show that you're on?
Let's see. Favorite was Let's Make a Deal because I ended up walking away with the trip to Rio, which was so much fun. In fact, I just got a friend to be on that show. He just got accepted. So I've kind of become a game show coach. If you want to go on a show, I can tell you what they look for. I've done it millions of times. Wheel of Fortune was fun. Had that big puzzle where I got to start it out myself, and it was the Tom show. I was answering. I had everything going well. I knew the answer to the puzzle, but there was just that one word. And I had trip for 2 on motorcycles across the U.S., tires, everything on the wheel was mine, and no one else had spun. And I knew one more letter, and Pat Sajak is looking at me going, Tom, would you like to solve the puzzle? And I'm thinking inside, what do you effing think? I won't say that word, but that's what I really wanted to respond. But he was super cool. Finally, I hit a bankruptcy. And the puzzle was, because it always haunts me, from SNL to Shtick, he played blank Glick. And who's the actor? You're looking at me puzzled.
Yeah, I'm puzzled. I don't know.
Well, I had just seen the actor in The Producers 2 nights before, but I was running late and didn't get to read the program. Had I read the program, I would have known Martin. I knew it was Martin Short, but Jiminy Glick. And so, I hit a bankruptcy. All of it went away. And he's like, oh, Tom, don't worry, you can come back. And the lady next to me grabs the puzzle or the wheel and spins it. And she said, he looks at her and goes, have a little moment for Tom here, a little sympathy. She's like, I've been watching him do this. I'm going to solve it. And she did. So,
wow. What did she win?
Not much, about $600.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she only had one letter left in the puzzle. So,
but she dunked you.
Yeah, took me out, and the worst was probably The Price is Right. I did it about a year ago. It was
Wait a minute. I'm just picturing this. Did you have to be stupid, do stupid stuff to get them to recognize you?
You had to beef it up. Yeah. So this is during pandemic.
Right.
So they only had the contestants, the audience, and I'm behind this. Here's the first people to go behind. We're going to call you out. And they called me down. And of course I did some kind of embarrassing jump and kick your heels kind of thing from country western dancing. I think it's called a bell kick curve. And I was in the contestant row. I was the last one to be called up. I had memorized prices. If it was Burberry purses, I knew to take the number of purses, multiply it times, I think it was 300 back then, and I'd know the price. And I am like second place every time. And they're like, God, Tom, you okay? And I'm like, yeah. Finally, the last one, the Burberry purses did come up, and I was second to last. And they're like, 600. $800. I'm like, $3,200. And the guy looks at me next to me and goes, $3,201. And of course, the host pulls it open, and he looks, he goes, sorry, Tom, $3,220.
You missed by $19.
Yeah,
or $20.
and the guy went $1 over, went on, and then it's the car that I know the price that he's going for, and they're, the audience only has like 10 people during the pandemic, and they're like, "Come on, shout out prices!" And it drove me nuts because you'd yell out with the price, and they're like, "Do it again," and it's like, "What? No, I already said it." So I started making up prices, but anyways, he's up there and he's blowing it. And I knew the first two numbers of the car, and finally yelled, 19! I mean, the loudest I could yell. And he looks over and goes, 19? Ding, 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 ding. And he goes on to win the car. And I'm just like, ugh. And he came over and he apologized. He said, "I'm so sorry I did that to you." And I said, "Hey, I would have done it to you."
Wait, what did he do to you? I don't get it.
By going $1 over.
Oh, right. That's the game.
Yeah. And he said, "And you won me a car. Thank you for that." So, yeah. Me, I got a karaoke machine worth $1,100. Nobody uses those anymore.
You still have it?
It's in the box with like 80 CDs. And it's like, who uses CDs anymore?
Right.
And then went on to try to win a car, and I was exhausted. After yelling and jumping up and down for an entire hour plus, there was no brain cells left, and so I didn't get the car. Oh, well.
Did not get it?
Nope, didn't get the car. Yeah, and people look at that recording and go, "Wow, that was really you. You're really a whore, aren't you? You'll do anything for, be on a game show."
Right.
But no, it was fun. I mean, it was one of those things, check off your list.
So you retired, you said. So what's in store here? You mentioned a couple things you're going to do.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten into writing. There's still talk about me going back to work, but it's been 2 years. I love Palm Springs, and retiring here is amazing. The last 2 years, I've worked on 7 different remodel projects, which is not what I pictured in retirement. I'm supposed to be out by the
7
pool.
in the same house here or what?
No, things like...
you had your properties you were still
Yeah,
rid of.
and then my dad's rental house came up, so we were working on that. The mother-in-law unit downstairs, the fourplex, Andy sold his house. We had to work on that. And of course, the Palm Springs house, which has been, Andy accuses me sometimes of taking too much time because I love it so much here. Yeah. And then now I'll go back to Oakland and get that one fixed up so we can sell and live down here full time.
All right. I think we kind of covered it. I always ask this or something similar. So what have you learned in your life? If you're going to give advice to people, what would you say? I'm throwing that at you.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that one coming. I don't know. I think 2 life lessons that I have. There's 2 slogans I live by. One is, it used to be on my college wall. It was a print of a forest, and it said, "Give to the world the best you have to offer, and the best will come back to you." And I try to live that way. And then the other one that I use when I get
That's law of attraction.
Yeah. And the other one I use is an old quote from Al-Anon, and it's Abraham Lincoln, and it's, "Most people are as happy as they choose to be." And so like when I get upset about something, sometimes I focus on that, because it's like, go have your fit, get it out, whatever. But you're choosing to be angry. You're choosing to feel that way. And it's like, wow, I actually have a choice.
Right.
Forget about that. So those are my 2 life slogans.
Well, you'll have to let us know when your next game show is coming up.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.